It's the high school football game of the week.
Listen, man, tonight is tonight. You make the night for yourself.
Not one, but two of the best games in the Triad every Friday.
All comes down to today.
Catch the action on WTOB 980 AM and 96.7 FM. Or tune in to our second game on WCOG 1320 AM. Both games powered by TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, your home for Triad Sports.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they could help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com.
Hey, y'all, Tiny's Mobile Auto. Is your car broke down? Are you stuck somewhere? Do you need a mechanic? You don't want to call a tow truck? Call Tiny's Mobile Auto. He'll come out to you, do your work, whatever you need done, your regular maintenance, or if you're broke down on the side of the road, give him a call. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call 336-423-6241. You don't even have to see me. Just let me know what's wrong with your car, and I will come and fix it, y'all. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm on the Twitters, whatever you guys need, 336-423-6241. As always, I'll be seeing you.
This is PJ Washington, and you're listening to Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM, your home of the Hornets basketball and the Triad.
This should be played at high volume.
Welcome to Outta Pocket. Here's your host, Michael Davis.
And we're back, baby! Welcome to Outta Pocket with Michael Davis on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, WWBG 1470 AM as part of your TGI Friday lineup. I am your host, Michael Davis. We are joined by the producer, Desmond Johnson, playing some beats in the background, maybe. We got some Carsen Williams back on the show. We're not going to talk about the NBA Finals today, by the way. That was 2 weeks ago. We don't want to waste any part of that on the show today. And we also got Esteban Serrano repping his Spurs today. Guys, it is so good to be back. And I missed everybody last week. I was getting texts like, hey, are you going to be on today? Are you going to be on today? I'm like, hold up, taking a little break, taking a little vacay. Got my hand in a couple different pots right now that have pulled my attention away. And everybody deserves a little break or a vacation, and none more than the producer Desmond Johnson. And we're just right off the heels of the NBA draft last night, and that is going to dominate a lot of our show today. We will also have a couple people from the All Hornets team of Sports Illustrated in starting at 4:30 today, talking about why the Charlotte Hornets may have messed up their opportunity at the number 2 overall pick. Carsen's shaking his head like that's a false statement. It's really not. But we got to talk about this number 1 pick. Number 1 pick is Victor Wembanyama. Finally got that name right after several tries. He is going to the San Antonio Spurs. I believe everybody will know his name. Esteban's got the number 1 pick for our people watching on YouTube. If you comment on YouTube, your comment could potentially flash up on the screen. It's a really cool opportunity. That's why we do these live, so you guys can engage with us. But Esteban, Victor has come into the Spurs organization as the number 1 overall pick, and watching him stand up, he was just towering over everybody last night. What was your reaction to him going number 1 last night, even though it was a foregone conclusion?
Well, it was just a relief to finally hear his name being called, honestly, because we've been waiting for it for so long, as Spurs fans at least. And as a matter of fact, while we're doing the show right now, he's actually supposed to be flying into San Antonio. There's people all over the city just waiting for his his plane to land. So it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool to hear his name last night. I was at the watch party at the AT&T Center doing my blog. So it was a pretty cool environment, and people were just ecstatic to hear his name finally be called.
Well, you didn't get to go to Barclays, so I guess the next best thing is to be surrounded by all your Spurs fans. Also, shout out to the Cowboys pennant behind you. I really appreciate that.
I know you can't see it, but I got a Super Bowl champ poster right here underneath right here.
This is not good.
This is very good. This is why I invited Esteban on the show, not to hype up his Spurs. I mean, when the Heat and Spurs meet up in the finals, we win. Don't mention the 14. But Carsen, your thoughts on Victor Wembanyama going number 1 to the Spurs yesterday?
Yeah, it was no surprise. I mean, he was easily the best prospect in the draft and the best prospect since LeBron, I think. But what really caught my eye was the emotion that he showed, and I was surprised. I didn't know a lot about him before, but I listened to a podcast with him and JJ Redick, and I was really impressed with his maturity, and that he's been the number one. Everybody knew he was going to be the number 1 pick for a year now. Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate it. Everybody knew he was going to be the number 1 pick for a year now. I did not expect him to cry like that, and he just bawled his eyes out, and it shows how much he really loves the game, which I love. And there was a lot of emotion last night in the draft, which I was very happy about.
Yeah, JJ Redick mentioned that on the ESPN broadcast of the NBA draft. Also, Carsen and I letting the flow go this week on Outta Pocket. Really appreciate it. Esteban and Dez also needs to catch up on the flow part. But it's interesting you mentioned the best prospect since LeBron. Okay. Dez showing his luscious locks right there. They're flowing in the wind.
I need a Randy Jackson from Coming to America Soul Glow wig that I can start wearing during Outta Pocket. So I'm gonna be on the case. I'm looking for one.
Okay, good. I work at YMCA camp, also producing their camp radio station, and there are a couple kids that are like, "Hey, breaking news!" They call me Boomer. They're like, "Boomer's wearing a wig." No, I'm not. Just calm down.
That's all natural right there. That's all it is. Yeah.
That's why I wear a headset so nobody can pull it off of me
right
during the broadcast. But it's comfortable. You mentioned Carsen, best prospect since LeBron. I can remember 2 players who were considered can't miss prospects coming out of the NBA. One of them I was right on. One of them, the jury's still out, but it's not looking good. One of them was Ben Simmons, but the knock on him was his shooting. And I was like, Ben Simmons is going to be a bust. People don't believe it. They started crowning him. And then a few years in the league, he's not been too good. The other one's Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
And that's one where the jury's still out because of his health, but a lot of people questioned his size and would he be durable enough for the NBA. With Victor Wembanyama, I'm not hearing a lot of criticisms or hesitations in terms of him being a missable prospect. Des, do you think he's the transcendent player everyone's saying?
I think he can be. I think after a year or two and getting a little bit more strength on his frame, I don't think he has to fill out or anything. But then again, 7'5", if he get, I don't know what he weighs right now, but at 7'5", if he could just get up to 280,
yeah,
enough. And he still would look like a stick, but he would be pretty daunting. I mean, imagine a 3 foot or 3 inch taller Giannis is kind of what I'm kind of picturing, as his ceiling in terms of what he could get to. Although, to be honest, from what I can see, he shoots better than Giannis right now. In terms of he's got a natural shot. His handles are better than Giannis. He's a 7'5" guard. So I mean, he landed in the right spot in San Antonio, in my opinion, because San Antonio has proven over the past 2 decades they know what to do with foreign players, and I feel like it's just a natural fit right there. I wish he could have came to Charlotte, but I think San Antonio's gonna be the best spot for him. He's about, I would say LeBron is probably the last prospect that was a can't miss type guy that came out, because even when Zion came out, there were still questions about his weight and injury history. The kid's been injured since junior year of high school. Literally every year he's had some kind of nagging injury. So I think he's going to be fine. And I think Greg Popovich will be the one that'll be able to guide him here over the next couple of years. And who knows, in 5 or 6 years, we might be talking about Pop with another dynasty with Victor here.
If Pop stays along enough to coach.
I think this is the thing to make him stay. Because I think if they hadn't got this number 1 pick, Pop might have left in a couple of years, if not after this season, to be honest. I'm sure it had to be draining for him.
I mean, he's already 74 years old. Esteban, do you think Pop stays long enough to develop Wembanyama?
Yeah, well, I think Pop's been in a pretty down place recently, losing his wife and everything. So he's kind of using basketball as a way to, like, I guess, move on from that. He's kind of using it as, this is kind of what keeps me going, keeps me happy now. I don't think he's toward retirement anytime soon, especially since now they want the number 1 pick. Now they got Victor and everything like that. So only time will tell. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? And the whole thing with Victor too, it's going to be interesting to see what he decides to do in a few years. Say, hey, maybe he wins 1 more. Maybe he's satisfied. Maybe he thinks he can go 3 more. It's just a matter of time. Time will tell. And like we said with Victor, we just don't know right now. He's not, and he's Pop said this last night at a press conference, and I'll never forget this because he said he's not LeBron. We don't want to treat him like Kobe, like Tim. We want to treat him as Victor. He's Victor. He's not anybody else. So, that's just kind of telling you right there. Only time will tell what this does and what kind of dynasty, quote unquote, will be built with this guy. So I see him sticking around maybe about 4 or 5 more years, if anything. If he wins 1 more championship, I think he really wants that 6th ring, so he's really going to chase it as much as possible.
Do you think I'll start with Carsen with this one? Do you think the Spurs have enough around Wembanyama and Popovich to make the playoffs in the very deep Western Conference this year? Esteban's saying no. So
I'll say they can make the play-in. Depending on Victor, I'm just so worried about his health. I know he played all 70 games in his league in France, but like that's just a scary frame, man. If he can stay healthy and be the player that I know he could be, then yeah, I could see them making the play-in. I don't think they're going to make a playoff run because they don't have those pieces around him. But yeah, he can make the play-in. And if he makes the play-in, it is going to be so huge for the city of San Antonio. People are going to freak out around him because right now he is not expected to make a deep playoff run, I don't think. But if they can make the play-in after these past down years, the city of San Antonio is going to just flock around him even more than they already are. It's going to be great.
Hey, anything can happen if you make the play-in, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
well, maybe except for win the championship.
That's not cool, guys. This is the worst team in the league. Like, they were picking number 1 for a reason. Like, they're still far away from, like, we could probably sit here together collectively and name 10 teams in the West that are going to be in the playoff picture before we even go near San Antonio, right? I mean, Denver, Phoenix, Lakers, the Clippers.
I knew he'd say the Lakers.
The Timberwolves. Hell, the Pelicans. That's 6.
Well, if Zion can stay healthy.
Even if he doesn't, I think the Pelicans would have a better shot.
Wait, Timberwolves in the East, right?
No, they're in the West.
They're in the West.
I'm forgetting here. I'd pick OKC before I'd pick San Antonio, just because of
really,
yeah
for sure.
Play-in game at least. I mean, the West is loaded. Like Golden State. I mean, said Golden State. I'm 6 teams in Golden State. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous the amount of teams are in the West. It's going to take some time. I think there's only been I think I saw the stat the other day. There's only been 2 or 3 overall number 1 picks whose team made the playoffs like their rookie year. And one of them was Magic Johnson.
Wow.
Like Kareem, and they went to.
I think LeBron was the other one.
No, LeBron didn't go to year 3. You know what I mean? Like,
he barely missed his first year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really rare for a number 1 pick to make it to the playoffs in their rookie season. So I'd pump the brakes a little bit on that a little bit.
Wow. Well, only time will tell if what Victor Wembanyama transcends this organization to. But one of the big telling things was Scoot Henderson was drafted to Portland at number 3. We're going to hold off on the Brandon Miller hate for the second segment. At 4:30.
No hate. I'm going to defend him. You guys aren't going to be able to hate him.
Yeah, I think we will. Matt and Nicholas are going to join us at the beginning of the second segment, talk about Brandon Miller. But Scoot goes to Portland, and I'm starting to think that this tells the sign that Damian Lillard's pretty sure he's getting traded, maybe to a specific team. Des, what's your thoughts on Scoot?
Well, I feel bad now, and Matt will probably echo this when he comes in here in a little bit at 4:30, because we did an all Hornets Sports Illustrated roundtable right before the draft yesterday and put that article out. And my grade was the lowest grade for Brandon Miller. I gave him a D. Like if we if we select them.
Oh my God.
I was just like, no, I don't want him. I want Scoot Henderson. And if they pick Brandon Miller, I'm going to let them know why I don't like it. I did put in there that I didn't think Brandon Miller was a bad player. Far from it. Matter of fact, his coming out party was against my Tar Heels in that 4 overtime game at the beginning of the year that gave him their first loss of the season in college basketball. That's when everybody found out who he was, because he went off in that game. So I guess I didn't think that they would move him to guard, because he played small forward, I think, in college. And from all accounts, it sounds like he was the guy they wanted from the very beginning. Sounds like he's going to play at shooting guard, which actually makes some sense, because now you've got 2 6'9" guys in your backcourt like that. That's unique, you know. And then if Miles Bridges is coming back, you got him at small forward. You drafted Mark Williams last year. That's a pretty good core, and they're all under the age of 23. I mean, that's if you can keep that together and build with it, I'm happy with that. So I might have to retract my D for Miller. I was very intrigued with having Scoot and LaMelo in the backcourt, but as I slept on it and woke up this morning, I realized it was really more of, I was more worried that LaMelo would leave the Hornets and Scoot would be a backup plan in case he left because of the dysfunction in the franchise. So I think that's where my initial grade came from. But now that I've slept on it and gone through a day or so, I'm okay with Miller as long as, you know, he's learned from previous well, he didn't really do anything, but as long as he's learned to keep his circle tight, and him and LaMelo are already friends. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
That's the color blindness looking through with teal and purple glasses right there.
A little bit, yeah.
It's like we got him. Oh well. Esteban, what are the odds you see do Carolina teams only draft Alabama? That's true.
Town, yeah.
Bryce Young to the Panthers, Brandon Miller to the Hornets.
I mean, it's not like Alabama is like this like school that's like in the back of another school that, you know what I mean? Like these athletes aren't good. It is Alabama. I mean, it's not a bad place to get some players from.
They've never been known as a basketball school, though.
Reached number 1 this year with Miller, and he's the SEC Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year. So you know what? I'm okay.
I just can't. But I can't imagine how you guys can hate on him. He's such a good player. He can fit in so well in basically any team because every team needs a player like him.
That's the perception. I was talking with JP Mundy about this earlier today, where he was saying if they picked on fit, everybody should be fired from the Hornets. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I don't think they picked on fit because he was a small forward in college, and we already have 2 small forwards, and Gordon Hayward and it appears Miles Bridges will be back here soon. So it wasn't a fit pick. They kind of picked him based off of their evaluation and talent, and they're very thorough in terms of checking backgrounds and stuff like that. So I feel like they did their due diligence. I feel like they feel like he can slide right in beside LaMelo. While it might be a good fit, I don't think they picked on fit is probably the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because you mentioned, would they keep LaMelo if they drafted Scoot? That's the situation Portland's in right now is, do they keep Damian Lillard now that they have Scoot? Esteban, do you see Damian Lillard coming to a certain South Beach team?
I don't know about South Beach team, but I don't know. I honestly don't know what his future holds, to be honest with you. I can tell you one thing though. Every draft prospect in this year's draft is going to make a difference in the teams this year. I think in the top 5, I think are really gonna shift these teams to getting into playoffs, or maybe even potentially going farther. I mean, everyone's going to make a difference. This was probably one of the most important drafts in our lifetime, not just because of Wembanyama, but because of the next 4 picks.
This was a much stronger draft than last year for sure. Last year was like weak sauce to me, and the top 3 this year would probably have went ahead of everybody last year except for maybe Paolo.
Yeah, I would say Paolo would he still go
number 1?
He would be number 1. No, not even close. But I think he would probably still go number 2
over Miller.
Yeah.
See, that's
I'd say Banchero.
It depends on who's drafting, but who's in the top 3. But
if it was Charlotte drafting it too, and Banchero was there,
no, I would still say Miller.
Banchero.
See, they already have a guy like Paulo. Well, they have a couple guys like Paulo. Like already, they've drafted first round the past 4 years. It feels like that power forward tweener 6'9", 6'10" guy, Kai Jones, basically.
Right.
I think Carsen's right. I think they would have picked Brandon Miller anyway.
No, well, are there any guys on the Hornets roster better than Banchero at that position right now?
No.
Then you take Banchero.
But they don't need that position as much as they need a shooting guard. They don't need that position as much as they need shooting. And as much as I love Paulo, I'm a Duke guy, but Brandon Miller was like a top 3 shooter, maybe top 5 shooter in this year's draft. So that's the right pick, I think.
I love into it.
I loved what Esteban said, though. It's like I was watching the draft last night, and it felt like every player that was drafted in the lottery, and a little afterwards too, like they are meant to play for their team right now.
Yeah.
And contribute pretty early on. From the Thompson twins, from Derek Lively to Dallas, they needed a rim protector.
That was a great pick by Dallas. I mean, it was OKC's pick, but he's going to Dallas, and that was great.
Yeah. And I think the Thompson twins, I think they've put them in a good position, especially the one that went to Detroit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say after Detroit, I know they have to do some stuff in free agency. I feel like they could be a sleeper playoff team in the East.
Play-in team, maybe.
It's it comes down to Cade Cunningham, and if he's healthy, and then when he is healthy, how does he play? Because I know it's going to sound crazy. I was never huge on Cade Cunningham, even in college. I just didn't love him as much as everybody else loved him. But yeah, we're just gonna have to see how he plays. But I think he's a good. I think Asar Thompson was the one that went. I think that he's gonna pair great with Cade Cunningham with Cade's playmaking skills.
I feel like Detroit could be like one of these like New York teams or Cleveland teams where there's a lot of youth and it just clicks. I feel like Thompson's that glue guy for them.
Maybe. I could see. I think it's going to take them a year, 2 years to really gel that together.
Oh, yeah, it's so rare for a rookie to come in and lead a team into the playoffs, especially pick that high, because usually your team suck. That's why you're picking so high. So like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like one 19-year-old coming in is usually not going to do it unless that 19-year-old is Magic Johnson. And even then, they had Kareem already. He was already MVP of the league when he got there. So I mean, it's just, I don't know. LeBron couldn't do it. Jordan couldn't do it. Like, I mean, it's a really hard thing to do. But I will say it'll probably be easier in the East than in the West. Well, not probably. It will be easier in the East than in the West.
That's part of the reason I'm saying it too.
Yeah. I could see a team right at 500 or even below 500 getting into the playoffs in the East next year.
Yeah.
So maybe, Mike, maybe.
Because Washington's got worse. I don't trust Charlotte in that position.
I don't know what Washington's doing.
Washington's going to be the worst team in the league.
I think they're trying to be. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole's about to average 50 points a game just because he's the only player on that team.
Or 50 shots at least. Like,
yeah.
Nobody to punch me over here. And he's just going to start launching all over the place. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Detroit possibly. Hell, I think Charlotte has a good shot to make the playoffs if they can stay healthy. Like, I thought they could make the playoffs this past year, but they just had so many injuries that just banged them up. And I think they're going to be a surprise next year if LaMelo's healthy throughout the year. I'm not counting Gordon Hayward. I've given up on that ship. If LaMelo can be healthy through the year, and these pieces we've talked about are going to be there and they're going to actually play him, watch out for Charlotte. They could be a fun team to watch.
But it's very interesting, like all the players that could help their teams. Dariq Whitehead to Brooklyn, Jaquez to Miami. I still got to pronounce that name, even though he's on my own team. Magic making a couple moves for Anthony Black and Jet Howard. Like, I don't know, before we get these Hornets guys in, who you guys think had the best draft night last night? Carsen, I'll start with you.
The Rockets. I don't think it's really particularly close. I mean, Cam Whitmore sliding to 20 was so.
Oh my gosh!
I don't understand how it happened.
Was there like an injury concern or something?
It was injury concern. He's had back injuries in the past. So that's what he slid for. But I mean, how? Like I get it, but with a guy with his potential, I mean, he's gotta go earlier. And then Rockets, people were saying he could go like top 5.
Yeah, he was projected top 5 pretty much the past 2 months, and then
and then you get him at 20. Like that's insane. The Rockets came away the clear winners of this draft. I mean, the Spurs obviously have Wemby, and that's great. But like, but that's
anybody other than the Spurs, we're talking about
right,
Wembanyama.
Right.
Hey, the question was who won the draft? Esteban. Yeah. Like you can include your team in there.
I guess, but I would be a mess if I didn't include my Cavs in this. I don't think they were the draft winners, but I loved Imani Bates at the 49th pick. I tweeted before and said that they should pick him because his just ceiling is so high. If he can just kind of rein himself in, I love it. And Cleveland has a really good culture there too, so I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, Esteban, real quick before we get into break, who do you think won the draft?
Okay, excluding the Spurs because I'm a Spurs fan, right? And as a Spurs fan, I have to agree with Carsen. The Rockets definitely won this one. They got it, and they got Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore. Shockingly, like you said, didn't go top 10, which I was shocked about too. So I think getting one of the Thompson twins was already a win because of how much talent that they both have. And let's just put it this way, man: the G League is really a hot spot now for a lot of these players, and overtime elite really too. We had both those twins, so that's a win in my book right there. I'll never get over the fact last night that there were Rockets fans throwing fingers when they drafted Wembanyama. But the Rockets definitely had the best night in terms of the draft. They had 2 picks first round. So pretty amazing stuff.
Real quick, college basketball is not looking good. Like what? It was 1 out of the top 7 picks.
Yeah.
Was a college player. The rest were foreign or G League.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
No, Anthony Black was from Arkansas. So
okay, so two out of the top 7.
I mean, think about the college basketball season this past year, though. Was it really that exciting when you look back on it? And we talked about that, where it felt like there was something missing with college basketball. Really, the past 2 years, really, well, maybe longer than that.
Honestly,
3, 4,
right before COVID.
I think 2019 was the peak. With the Zion year was the peak for college basketball, where like you kind of knew players on other teams and that kind of thing. This year, I'm sitting there watching the NBA draft, and I'm just lost after like picking 4 or 5. I'm like, who is that? I don't know who that is. So
when there's no blue blood in your bracket, it's bad.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. I texted Trevor, who's been a guest on here, he hosts Two Pointers podcast, and I was like, "Can you tell me a little bit about who Miami picked? I don't watch UCLA basketball, but we gotta get into a quick break. When we come back, we got Matt Alquiza, Nicholas Mullick from the All Hornets Sports Illustrated to talk about Brad Miller and that pick for the Charlotte Hornets next on Outta Pocket with Michael Davis on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, WWBG 1470 AM as part of your TGI Friday lineup.
It's the high school football game of the week.
Listen, man, tonight is the night to make the name for yourself.
Not 1, but 2 of the best games in the Triad every Friday.
All comes down to today.
Catch the action on WTOB 980 AM and 96.7 FM.
Who got my back?
Or tune in to our second game on WCOG 1320 AM. Both games powered by TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, your home for Triad Sports.
So where exactly can you hear Tobacco Road Sports Radio?
North Carolina, Curtisville, Salisbury, you know what I'm saying? Burlington. I didn't bring you Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte.
For the best in live sports debate, live sporting events, and more, tune in to Tobacco Road Sports Radio. TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
The North Cape, baby. Archdale.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they can help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com.
It's summertime, and that means it's time for the Catalinas. The Catalinas are celebrating their 66th anniversary this year, performing across the Carolinas. Proud members of the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame and the Beach Music Hall of Fame. Go to thecatalinas.net for show schedule and to request bookings. For corporate advertising opportunities, call 336-777-6362. It's the Catalinas.
When I think of Mountain Valley Hospice, I think about the caring and understanding. They did so much for me and for my family, comforting me, watching a parent gradually go away. I don't know how we could have done it without them.
Here at Mountain Valley, every moment matters.
This is LaMelo Ball, and you're listening to Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM, your home for Hornets basketball in the Triad.
Welcome back to Outta Pocket with Michael Davis on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and WWBG 1470 AM. It's part of your TGI Friday lineup. You might be watching us on our YouTube channel, Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Be sure to subscribe. And we got the biggest, officially, the biggest panel in Outta Pocket history with 6 people on the panel. You know producer Desmond Johnson. You know Carsen Williams. You know Esteban Serrano, who's celebrating after last night. And we were welcoming in for the first time from Sports Illustrated, the All Hornets team. First, we're introducing Nicholas Mullick. Nick, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well, you know. Not a fun draft. We'll get to that later, but, you know, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me to come on. It's finally nice to meet you, Desmond and Matt,
I know, right?
On the screen, you know.
We've known each other for like months, but it's all been through like Twitter texts and tweets.
Yeah,
and
through DMs.
Yeah.
But it's just awesome to see you face to face, including you, Matt. So I'm happy to be here, ready to talk Hornets, and you know I'm just excited to be here. You know,
it's awesome. Excited to have you here. Glad Des slid in the DMs to get you on. Now, if you've been watching Outta Pocket, you know how much I've been messing up Victor Wembanyama's name. I finally got it right. So, Matt, let me try this real quick. Matt Alquiza.
Close. Alquiza. You know,
Alquiza.
the U is kind of silent. Yeah, Alquiza.
Alquiza. Matt Alquiza. Well, Des led me astray earlier with the names. But,
What? I just typed it out. Again, same with Matt. We've never met. We just know each other through the All Hornets platform, and most of our conversations are through a Twitter thread that's been going on for like 3 months. So usually I'm just talking to them about their first names or their handles. But this is the first time we've all met. So what's up, Matt? What's going on, man?
What's up, man? I'm doing good. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on the back row, guys.
Of course. Well, let's get into it because the Charlotte Hornets passed on Scoot Henderson, which I'll go ahead and say for the record, that's who they should have taken. And they instead took Brandon Miller from Alabama. Nicholas is already...
I'm just ashamed. I'm ashamed that they took Brandon Miller. I did not want Brandon. I wanted Scoot. He was right there. And you decide to go. Here's the one thing I don't understand as well. And I've mentioned this previously. Number one, in the NBA draft, you take the best player on the board. Scoot was hands down the best player on the board. Why are you drafting Brandon Miller, which I also have a big issue with Brandon Miller too, because I'll mention it later. But why I'm just so frustrated right now that this organization again they don't go best because this is what they've done for years. They don't take the best player available. The one that angered me the most previously was when they passed on Donovan Mitchell for Malik Monk. Mitchell was the best player on the board, and yet again Jordan ignored the staff. He ignored this. He ignored that when he took Monk. Now, I'm not so sure how this one was run because, and this got me, I was delirious when I heard this, where it was so confusing who was running this draft. At one point, you have Mitch Kupchak saying, "Oh, I'm going to make the pick." Then you have Michael Jordan out here saying, "Oh, I'm going to make the pick." And at this point, maybe it was LaMelo Ball who made the pick, but you know what I mean. It's
our friends. Hey, Brandon Miller and LaMelo are friends. Maybe he snuck in the back door and was like, "Hey, get this guy."
Maybe, but I think and then I'll go to Matt because I want to hear his opinion on this. The one thing that annoyed me the most, the two things that plagued this team last year was injuries and off the field issues. Those were the two main issues. And I remember, I think Kupchak saying that he was going to fix that, like, especially with the off the court stuff. Why are you bringing in Brandon Miller, who's known to have off the field issues? And you even had Terry Rozier, who basically liked tweets supporting Scoot over Brandon Miller. Like, what's going on here?
Let it spill out of your heart, Nick. Just let it come out.
I was so frustrated. Listen, Brandon Miller's talented. I'm just so frustrated they passed on Scoot for Brandon Miller. It's delirious. Oh my God.
Well, Nicholas honestly took all the words out of my mouth because we're
sharing
a brain today.
Got his money's worth.
We'll invite you on more.
I talked myself into Brandon Miller, and then Nick came in here, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm jumping back on that man. Forget Brandon Miller. I don't want him."
Matt, what did you think about Brandon Miller going number 2 overall to the Hornets?
Yeah, I mean, for weeks, I kept saying, I was on the phone with a buddy yesterday. He asked me who I would prefer, Miller or Scoot. And I said, the Hornets aren't close to winning a championship right now, right? They're far from it. Scoot would have made my day-to-day life a lot more fun, right? Him and LaMelo Ball in the backcourt together, that is just like a fun backcourt pairing. They're going to run. They fit really well together. So honestly, up until 8:15, I was hoping for Scoot. Brandon Miller was the pick. And Desmond, like you, I have now talked myself into Brandon Miller and why he is going to be a very good NBA player in Charlotte. It's not every day that you get a chance to draft a guy who is 6'9", that is going to be a knockdown shooter right away, that can handle, that can make plays, can be a secondary ball handler to LaMelo, not in the way that Scoot is, where he is, pressuring the rim and using his explosive athleticism to get by guys, but Brandon Miller can handle. He can make plays for his teammates. He's just a good basketball player. I mean, that's what it is. He's going to be a very good basketball player from day one. Does he have the ceiling that Scoot does? Maybe not, but I think his floor is a lot higher than Scoot. I mean, you can't teach.
I don't know about that one.
Much higher.
I think that Scoot has the higher floor and the higher ceiling than Brandon Miller was, and I'm just so frustrated that
here's my fear
right there.
Here's my fear. The reason why I wanted Scoot from us working over at All Hornets, I was more worried about Scoot becoming a bigger star than Brandon Miller. Not so much comparing the two of them, but I was more worried about that aftertaste of Hornets fans know what I'm talking about, where we missed the guy, we missed that prospect, and then he goes off and becomes Dame Lillard or somebody, and we're stuck with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and it's just like, what are we doing? And
I think you are, though.
Brandon Miller's not even a bad player. That's the problem here with the equations. He's actually a good player. SEC Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, second-team All-American. Like I said, he destroyed my Tar Heels opening up the season in that 4 overtime game. It was the first loss they had and kind of started their downfall for the rest of the year. So I know who Brandon Miller is. Like, I'm aware of what he can do. My thing was he was playing small forward, and I'm thinking – we already have 2 small forwards. Like, we couldn't get them both on the court with Gordon Hayward and Miles Bridges before, and it sounds like they're bringing Bridges back. So,
yeah, does this mean that Bridges isn't going to be coming back?
I think they're going to move Miller to shooting guard. So
probably, but I don't know with the new ownership too.
you'll have 2 6'9" guys in your backcourt, and I don't know any other backcourt in the league that can say they'll have two dudes that are 6'9".
And it works so well.
And they should, in theory,
it's
work
beautiful.
Oh my God.
Beautiful fit. Here's the thing, and you guys are not going to be happy that I say this.
I will, Carson. I will be. I'm sure I will
Well,
be.
you might be. I don't think so.
We'll invite Nick back.
Even if.
God. Yeah. I just listen. The one thing I want to say is, first off, I wish Brandon Miller well. I don't want the guy to fail. That would just be totally unethical. I want him to succeed here. I would just want my team to win basketball games. Like, even when we were hurt and the season was done, I just want to win. I want this team to be a playoff team. And I feel like
we were against you.
get,
remember, we didn't want to win at that point. You were the only one. And all Hornets straight up was like, we need to win games.
No, but at that point, the pick was locked in. We had nothing to do. I don't want to see another loss. I just want them to win. And I felt like we would have had more of it. Because let's be real, I don't think Steve Clifford and Kupchak's jobs are safe with the new ownership coming in. I don't, because we've seen this all the time with new ownership. They want to get their guys in right away. They want to get their people in, and if they want to save their jobs this year, they need to win now. This is the time to win now. If you can't win, you're done. They better know what they're doing here. I hope Miller succeeds, but I just think they would have had a better opportunity to get in the playoffs with Scoot there than with Brandon Miller.
Here's the thing. If you're the Hornets, are you trying to make it to the playoffs and be a first-round exit, because they're not going to make it past the first round, and then get like a draft pick 15, 20? Or are you trying to build? They're probably not going to be great next year, but they're going to keep building. And that's what you're supposed to do if you're a poverty franchise like the Hornets.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. This franchise hasn't even gotten past the second round. I want this team. I don't care how many we win in the first series. I just want them to get there. I don't care if we get eliminated in the first round. I just want to see them win. I don't want to sit here and watch another losing season.
Well, I do think the core that they have, for them, I think they would have made the playoffs this past year if it wasn't for injury. Injury, basically, because this was a team, honestly, it was a 4, 5, 6 seed in the Eastern Conference if fully healthy. If we're being honest with each other, it was somewhere in the middle. It wasn't a Milwaukee or a 76ers or even that. I was looking at Miami won that division with 44 wins. When you won our division with 44 wins, like, I mean, come on, like, we weren't that far off, like, literally. So, I mean, if you have a healthy, and it's been the past 2 years, this Hornets roster has been like this, where they've just been decimated with injury. I don't know how many games Gordon Hayward's actually played, but when he does play, they've typically won those games. But I'm at a point where you can't depend on Hayward. He's an expiring contract. Trade him for some assets. If you really want to see what this team can do, you got to get rid of the older guys. The guys that you overpaid, Rozier, Hayward, the guys that are clogging up starting minutes. Get those out of here and play these young guys like Golden State did in 2012, 2013 when they finally shipped off Monta Ellis and let Steph, Clay, Draymond run, and they had a vet like Andre Iguodala to kind of keep them on task. That's what they need to do with this talent. You've got a core now of LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, and apparently Miles Bridges and PJ Washington.
Here's another thing too that no one's mentioning. No one's mentioning this as well. Next year, our first round pick, we don't have our first round pick. I believe it's San Antonio's property, if I remember correctly. But we don't have our.
Yeah, go win.
We need to, if you want to win, now's the time to win. If not, that pick's going to be higher, and you're not going to have a happy fan base when that happens.
Here's why I have a problem with Dez's comment, if I may. Like, you're saying ship off all the veterans and play the young guys.
No,
you just drafted somebody like number 2 overall who has off the court issues, who supplied a gun to his teammate. Like,
the police said there was nothing to charge him with.
Yeah,
he was a witness, not an accomplice. And
Desmond, he was involved. Come on, like, he was involved.
If the police are saying he's not, we have to accept it. We have to accept it. The police are saying that he wasn't,
and he wasn't found guilty.
And he wasn't.
The Hornets front office has absolutely gotten all the information they need from that incident.
They've done their due diligence.
Comfortable with drafting Brandon Miller.
Which I 1,000% agree with you on. I'm just saying, Brandon Miller, he still doesn't come off light in that, like, very well in that situation.
Do I think it should cost him his livelihood? No,
absolutely not. No.
And in the end, if he serves a better purpose for the Hornets than what Scoot may have, a 6'2" guy in the back with LaMelo, I can talk myself into Brandon Miller and LaMelo.
That's what I was about to say. You're stealing my words.
I can talk myself into it, but it's
Here's
like,
the thing.
Nick, don't turn on me, please. I feel all alone right now.
He's stealing my words, and the reason, like, I'm not going to completely give up on Brandon Miller. That's ridiculous. I mean, you shouldn't give up on a prospect right away. I'll give you an example as well. This is my football side. Daniel Jones. People were giving up on that guy right away. It took time, but in time, he turned out to be one of the better quarterbacks in that league. You shouldn't give up on a prospect right away. But in the short term, with the facts being there.
Whoa. Did you say Daniel Jones is one of the better quarterbacks in the league?
Well, I'm a New Yorker. I get to say that.
Oh, are you a Giants fan?
No, I'm a Jets fan. I'm a Jets/Jaguars fan.
And you're still saying that Daniel Jones is one of the better quarterbacks? Pretty crazy.
I have to, or else I have to, or else the neighbors will come after me.
Carsen, I still want to hear what you were going to say earlier. I want to agree with what you were going to say.
Even if the Hornets wouldn't have picked Brandon Miller at number 2, the right choice would not have been Scoot Henderson. They should have either shipped it off. I would have liked one of the Thompson twins better. The fit is just egregious. It doesn't work.
He's really a point guard.
Okay,
He's a point guard. And LaMelo is a
with
point guard. They're both incredibly ball dominant. And if there's one thing we know about this league is that 2 ball dominant players do not work.
Let me ask Matt this real quick and get Matt in on this. Mike Fanning, super fan of Out of Pocket and part of Tobacco Road, says Hornets need to trade for Zion. That was floating around all Hornets. We were talking about it back and forth. Matt, what were your thoughts on that in terms of bringing Zion into I can't even finish the question.
Zion for Brandon Miller, straight up.
No.
If I had to like rank the options of like the draft pick or trading for Zion, it would have been Scoot number 1, Brandon Miller number 2. This is my preference, and then trading for Zion was like the third out of those. If you're telling me that Zion is going to come to Charlotte and be healthy and play 75 games, he vaults to number 1 immediately. Like what we have seen from Zion is, I think, better than what the perceived ceiling of Miller and Scoot would be. Like the 25, 30 games that Zion played last year, I mean, he was a force. He just didn't play basketball for a year and a half and came in and averaged, 25 points a game immediately with his like size and athleticism. So if you're telling me that Zion is healthy and that he is, going to play 70 games a year, his ceiling is higher than either of those 2 guys. But what we know about Zion, his injury history, his now off the court issues that have popped up here recently. He bumps a third issues. Yeah, maybe not the right word. Off the court proceedings. What he likes to do in his free time. Bumps a third on that list.
Let's just say it's baggage.
He's a grown man. He's allowed to do whatever he wants to do. Like we.
I know, but I'm just gonna say baggage.
Nothing illegal.
There's no reason to dive deep on that.
Don't get wrong. Before you guys get out of here, I wanted to bring you guys on when Mike suggested, so we could hear what you thought about the rest of the draft for the Hornets instead of just the Brandon Miller stuff. What did you feel about some of the other picks that the Hornets had?
You can start first, Matt. I start way too.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Nick Smith is awesome. I mean, he's like a little bit on the skinnier side. He battled injuries in college, but I mean, it's just a bet on talent. He was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. Didn't get to show all that he had to offer at Arkansas, but I mean, it's an upside play. When you're drafting guys out of the lottery, you're praying for a star, and Nick Smith has qualities that could make him a star. He's, an athlete. He has a decent shooting touch. Needs to bulk up a little bit, but there is a ceiling there for him. James Najee won't be in Charlotte for at least 2 or 3 years. Big upside play again. Gambling on a star. 18-year-old with a 7'5" wingspan. He could be Clint Capella if he, develops the way that the Hornets hope him to be. And I don't really know a ton about Amari Bailey, but Nick, I don't know if you have anything else to say about him.
Well, I want to start with Nick Smith. everyone, I think I even heard Mitch Kupchak say like he was a top 16 pick in this draft, which I wasn't that guy. I saw him as in the right spot where he went, but I think the Hornets really took him because he and Brandon Miller were like high school teammates. So that sort of reminds me of the connection to make sure Brandon Miller will be happy where he is. Sort of like what, the Knicks did when Jalen Brunson came in and they traded for Josh Hart. Make them happy, always make sure your star player is happy.
I'm not mad at that, actually. They had 5 picks. Well, 4 when they traded up. But that's pretty good. I'm not mad at that at all. I guess they'll be swarm roommates.
If Brandon Miller is playing for the Swarm this year, we did something very wrong.
That's what I'm going to be mad. I said it last night, too. I'm like, we were picking number 2. I better not see Brandon, because I cover for you guys for the Swarm down here. Mm-hmm. We better not see Brandon Miller in Greensboro. Not once. I don't want to see
if you're shaking Brandon Miller's hand, it better be in Charlotte. It better not be in Greensboro.
Yeah.
He's at the end of the bench. He better not come near the Greensboro city limits. Like, don't even drop through here. Just go around it.
I will say one thing. As for the other picks, I wasn't too big of a fan of. As for I can't say his last name, so if he's hearing this and I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. James Nagy. I like the player. I hated the trade up because I didn't think we needed to trade up 3 spots just to get him. I mean, yes, we have an insane amount of second round picks, but I don't really think a trade up was needed to get him. He would have fallen to that spot, and I was so upset that we didn't get Rupert. Because he was one guy I wanted, and this team's needed a swingman for so many seasons. And I know, like in Hornetland, he doesn't come great because of his contract, but has this team really had a swingman since Nick Batum left? I mean, say what you want about, his contract was awful. He didn't,
Brandon Miller not a swingman?
I was about to say you want to swingman and you're upset about Brandon Miller?
No, he has potential to be that. He has potential.
He's like the definition, I feel like.
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I'm not so sure about that.
We'll have to bring Nick and Matt back.
We'll definitely bring Nick and Matt back. We'll definitely bring Nick back when we're ready to grill on Daniel Jones in the football. But real quick, Matt and Nick, this is your first time on Outta Pocket. Where can people find you? We'll start with Matt.
Yeah, Twitter, got my handle here, Alquiza8. Always tweeting about Panthers, Hornets, UNC Charlotte, sports as a whole. So that's where you can find most of my stuff. It always gets retweeted on there.
Sweet. Nick?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It's just my name, at Nicholas Mullick. You'll find Hornet stuff. You'll find football stuff. You'll find video game stuff I write on the side. But, yeah, send me a message,
Are you a PlayStation or Xbox guy?
Both.
Okay. If you got 2K, I'll beat you real quick.
And the whole Hornets team, we're busy throughout the summer. Like, we're not done. We've got all kinds of stuff coming out. Matter of fact, I have a top 10 Hornets all-time podcast series that we're going to be putting out probably in mid-July. That'll have some of these guys involved with it. Roundtable discussions with that. We've always got something cooking. Follow at all_Hornets on Twitter, and you can get to everything. And before they go, I want to say shout out to Skylar Callahan, our fearless leader. Had gotten into an accident with his wife and his dad a couple days ago. Head-on collision. Everyone's okay. His wife's out of surgery and everything's fine, but we're kind of holding the thing down while Skylar's recuperating. But that's my brother and ours from Believe in Panthers as well. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that he was okay and that the whole Hornets family's thinking about him and his family.
Yeah, well said there. Praying for Skylar because he's done some really good stuff, and at the end of the day, his health is super important. But Nick, Matt, thank you guys so much. We'll connect on Twitter. I'll reach out to you guys, get you guys back on here.
Of course.
Thanks,
Thank you for inviting us. And Desmond, it's a pleasure finally meeting you in person, especially you, Matt.
I will be in touch.
See you, fellas.
Now I got some good news right here. We're going to skip our final commercial break to touch on a couple trades that happened in our final 5-6 minutes of the show. And one of those was Chris Paul. Carsen mentioned, point guards never work. Well, Chris Paul is teaming up with Steph Curry. Esteban, what do you think about this move?
He's not winning a championship. I can tell you that right now. If he does win a championship, it's going to be like KD, right? And everyone says that the Warriors carried him. I think that's going to happen if that is the case, right? But you gotta also understand Warriors are also getting kind of toward the end of their dynasty, right? Their players are getting older. You know, we're not seeing as much bang from them anymore as we did a few years ago. So he went from Washington to Golden State, right? So it was kind of like a trade after a trade in that way. So yeah. So I don't know. As for, I can talk about Phoenix real quick, right? Because I don't know how Bradley Beal fits in with the whole Phoenix team there. Yeah, Carson's kind of like, he's
it feels weird. It feels weird. Carson?
Well, first I want to touch on Chris Paul. Esteban said that, you know, if he does win this championship, he's gonna have the narrative that he got carried to, which is going to be true if they do win a championship. But when you're 38 and you're ringless, you're just kind of chasing it at this point, you know.
That's good.
I hope that he wins one. I've always been a big Chris Paul fan. Beal and the Phoenix is probably the craziest thing I've ever heard. It just doesn't work out on so many levels because all three of the players have like the same offensive skill set. They're all mid-range assassins. None of them pressure the rim well. They can all hit threes at a high clip, but like that's not their forte. They don't have one great playmaker. Bradley Beal was a better playmaker when John Wall left, but like he's still not a playmaker that can bring them together like Chris Paul was. It just doesn't make any sense. And they've traded away their entire future. They have nothing to do. I don't remember the GM's name for the Suns, but he has got to be fired because the Suns are going to be just stuck for the next decade. Seriously, it's insane.
They'll either have a really good shooting night or they'll just be completely off.
Because they're so reliant on it.
Look at the three. Look at the big three they put together, and Beal and Durant and
Booker.
And Booker, they've all had injury concerns the past 3 or 4 years. I mean, they basically bet the farm on it. How old is Kevin Durant? 34, 35?
He's got to be.
He's
they
up
bet
there.
it on mid-30s Kevin Durant. Yeah,
Yeah,
and he hasn't had a complete season since like
34. He turns 35 before the season starts.
So on a middle-aged Kevin Durant, a Bradley Beal who just missed a whole bunch of a season last year, and Devin Booker who missed some time, and you don't have anything really trade-worthy wise except for Deontay Ayton. I mean,
and not to mention.
Whoa, Carson. But before you go, we just heard that from the Lakers guy who's building a team around like 40-year-old LeBron, glass AD, and nothing else.
LeBron is rarely out to injury, and AD, while he might get hurt a lot on the court, he rarely misses games. Like, he's only missed one playoff game. He runs into
because he hasn't made the playoffs
all the time. But yeah, every time he falls down, everyone's like, "Oh gosh, AD's gonna get hurt." But he usually comes right back in the game. Like,
right.
I'm kind of figured out his thing. LeBron is LeBron. He's like a cyborg or something. I don't know how he's able to even.
He's LeBron James.
Wow. Sorry to cut you off, Carson.
Guys.
No, for sure.
Austin Reed.
I was just saying they have 5 players on contract right now. 5.
They got
Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, and Cameron Payne. Whoa. What are you supposed to do? They have one mid-level exception, and then the rest of the guys they're gonna have to draft. They're gonna have to draft on the minimum.
They would have been better off not trading for Durant, keeping the team they had, and then trading for Beal and having Beal there.
That would have been much better, actually.
Because they would have still had Cam Johnson. They would have had Mikal Bridges, who's going to be a star. Like, they traded off all of their assets.
You'll remember this was a team a few years ago that made the finals.
With those guys.
Yeah. They lost to the Bucks in the, what was it, 21, 22? Yeah.
21.
So they were there. They had it already, to Carson's point. Mm-hmm. They were already there, but now it's gonna be another decade probably of just miserable existence.
Yeah.
Like it's been for the Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Durant's not getting back to the finals.
What'd you say, Mike?
I said like it's been for the Spurs, and then you said yeah. So we
got
that.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. No, that's what building a team's about.
Well, you got a good one, Victor Wembanyama. Maybe you can entice James Harden to come to the Spurs.
No, don't. We don't want that.
I want to ruin.
Yes, that's a whole other show.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time.
Well, we are out of time. We're against the hour. Thank you so much for Matt Alquiza. No, Alquiza. See, I tried getting Victor Wembanyama's. Now I gotta get Matt Alquiza's name. Thank you so much for popping in. Nicholas Mullick, thank you. Esteban Serrano staying on for the entire hour. Carson Williams staying on the entire hour. His Carsonites and Desmond Johnson producing the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Outta Pocket with Michael Davis today as part of your TGI Friday lineup. It continues on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and WWBG 1470 AM right now. And we will see you next week with the potential James Harden to Spurs.
Probably not.
Probably not.